All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bridge the Gap Project. Today we have Marissa Camacho, served in the Army, still serving.
Correct.
Right, and we're just going to speak about gender roles in the Army, how she got into this, and what her overall message after overcoming some things, what would her message be to the listeners? And I just want to start by asking, how did you even get into this? Because to me, obviously, I'm patriotic in a sense, but going to war for my country, like I would go to war for my family, for my friends, like I'm that type of dude. But going to war for my country seems crazy if I don't have to.
Right.
So how did this come about?
Pretty much, I did grow up in a relatively patriotic household. There were a lot of, factors in that, military service, police service, stuff like that. And, it was always an idea. It was always there. It was never
Foreign.
Yeah, it was like some families. I feel like that would be like a completely foreign concept. But for me, it was always something that I was surrounded by. So it was easy for me to like think about it and stuff like that. And then being exposed to certain things made it very simple as well. But specifically, I can pinpoint like the exact day.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the story.
That I was like, oh, that's definitely what I want to do.
Yes.
We went to Fleet Week, and that's like, when they go on the Intrepid and they have like all the service members there and everything like that. So we went there, and they had like these little stations where it was like, put on like the fireman's,
Wait, how old were you?
I must have been like 6 or 7.
Oh, okay.
Like, I was very young.
Yep.
And so they like, have different stations like, oh, climb up into the Humvee and like this, that, and the third. They had a pull-up bar. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And, there's all these people doing pull-ups, and then this one female service member comes up. She takes off her like top, her blouse, and she just starts cranking out these pull-ups, man. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Like she was so cool to me, and like, because I had never really seen a woman do something like that. I just watched like at that time like 5 or 6 dudes do it.
Yeah.
And she just like came up there like starts doing pull-ups, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, she's so cool.
That is cool.
I've never seen somebody do something like that.
Yeah.
And, I looked at it and I was like, that would be so cool if I did that. Like, I should do that. Like, just be her and just do pull-ups all day. No, I'm kidding. But,
Oh, yeah.
But, that definitely kind of was the first, moment that I was like, oh, this is like something that somebody can actually do. And, years and years later, close to 20 years later, I was in Saudi Arabia, and I've since been able to do very many pull-ups, but I never really connected the dots in my head that I was like, oh, you did it. But, I was sent to a Best Warrior competition in Kuwait. And
oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Damn.
Came in third place.
Really? How many people?
I think it was like 20.
That's serious.
Yeah, there was like about 20 of us.
Yes.
And we had the Ruck March, which I couldn't even tell you how long it was because I ended up accidentally walking the wrong way.
Oh, damn,
and I ended up walking longer than everybody else. So, we miles and miles ruck marching through the friggin' desert. And, after the fact, we're going back to the barracks, end of the day, and I'm carrying this heavy-ass rucksack, and, I'm trucking it. And I don't know what in my head triggered this thought, but I was like, if you, when you were like 6 or 7, could see you right now, she would be like, ooh, you did it. Like, you did it. You did exactly what you wanted to do. Like, just walking, like, and I'm just, like, imagining, like, a little me just, like, standing there and being like, oh, that's so dope.
That is.
Like, I want to be her when I grow up. It's like, that is you. Like,
No, that's beautiful. And like you said, obviously the Army is saturated with men, even though there's a good amount of women, but anytime you're going into a field where you're the minority, there are, even if it's in your head or even if they're little things, there's obstacles that maybe other people don't have to face. Right. And for you, having a vision at a young age is awesome. Because I never had that. Like, there were things I like I looked up to my dad. My dad played professional basketball. I looked up to Kobe. I played basketball, So yeah, I had things like that maybe down later in my life I want to go pursue this and be great at it.
Mm-hmm.
But having something to me that's like honorable. To me that's honorable. Your goal, even though it was for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
there's something revealing about being a woman who you saw this hero.
Exactly, in my mind.
In your mind, a hero.
It didn't matter what her job was.
Right.
Like,
She was doing this, and you had just seen 5 or 6 guys do it, and she was the first woman you saw do it. So that gave you the courage to pursue that, and then to go accomplish that
feels good.
It should feel good.
I want, like, and that's the thing, is like I genuinely want like everybody to feel that.
Yeah.
Like, that sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's absolutely
that's life.
Yeah.
That's
and
life.
it feels like it's like, my heart kind of swells a little bit when I think about it. It's just like, you like, you really do. And it's not like, the military was like my goal from like that moment on.
Right.
There were so many other things that I was interested in at that point that, like I could have done so many different things and been completely content. But it just so happens that I picked that one thing.
Right.
And, I was able to accomplish that like kind of dream almost.
So for you, were you always a hard worker?
No.
Okay, so right. So what I see a lot of times is the people who actually struggle with their work ethic end up becoming the people who value having a strong work ethic the most, because you've battled. I think for myself included, anyone who has a true strong calling in life,
mm-hmm.
either you're really gifted or whatever it is that's your calling, you struggle with it deeply.
Takes a minute to get there.
Right, it takes you a while, and you appreciate that a little more because you felt the other side of it. So how did you get from a young girl to a young woman who changed that narrative within herself? Because a lot of times that self-talk can be scary and damaging if you're not the person you want to be, and you continuously choose to be that person and you don't get to where you want to go quickly. It can be easy to be like, oh fuck, like damn it.
Definitely.
So how did you make that change?
Oh, very easily.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, not everybody's afforded the same opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very fortunate to like grow up with the family that I did that was able to like kind of support me through that. But I definitely feel like, when I was young, like, there were certain things that I pushed myself, mixed martial arts, pushed myself. School, like I was never a bad student, but there were certain things that I just wasn't like naturally inclined to.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very discouraging. So, I would kind of like push myself away from those things a little bit. Eventually, I did go to school and go to college, and, my first time around, I didn't really handle it the right way. I didn't do good, and I was perfectly capable of doing good, and I knew that I was perfectly capable of doing good, but I let certain situations within that, kind of be like a downward driving force that was like really bad for me. But I recognized it, and I was like, you need to like pull yourself together.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And it was like that moment of like, you need to get it together.
That shifted.
That like really shifted things for me. And then, eventually less than a year later, I ended up joining the Army.
Not to cut you off, was it emotional that moment where you're like, all right, you got to get it together? Like, did it have any?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
I cry a lot.
Fair
I'm
enough.
a big crier.
Okay.
So like that was definitely a breaking point almost.
Okay, good. Yeah,
so
right. That's what
like,
I meant.
Yeah, very much like it was like a
difficult and challenging, and
definitely.
not in something that you were forced to either get it together or continue this cycle
of like, what is that even? Like, you know what I mean?
Damn, like this
what
is
was
who
I doing?
I am. This
yeah,
is me.
Exactly.
Right.
It was kind of gross,
It is sad. It's gross and sad.
Yeah, and it was like that, like kind of disgust a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird to say that, but I was disgusted with the way that I was handling things.
Yeah, I think that, but I think a lot of people, when you use that word disgust, get like, no, you gotta love yourself. Like, yeah, of course you love yourself, but you
didn't say that I didn't love myself.
Right.
If
But
I didn't love myself, I would have continued doing what I was doing.
Right, but I think a lot of times people hear that word and like, no, you gotta, like, dude, sometimes it's okay to be unhappy with what you're putting out. I don't love myself any less because I'm struggling.
Right.
But I want better for myself.
Exactly.
And if this is what I want, there are certain things I'm doing that I can no longer accept because I am miserable because of my inaction in these certain areas.
Specifically, yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
Right.
But, for me, like, the tipping point and the better direction would be joining the Army.
Beautiful.
And that's when I kind of like realized full potential, like what that meant.
And what did that mean? What was the shift? Even though you had a shift, now what was the actual action shift in being that person?
I think it was kind of a compilation of things.
Mm-hmm.
So, join the army, whatever. While I was there, I'm not nobody's really fully aware of themselves in the way that they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
And like people from the outside looking in see things that you don't necessarily see.
Absolutely.
And, that's one thing that I am very grateful for because, I was, somebody saw something in me. One of the drill sergeants was like, she's going to be a good leader. Mm-hmm. I had no concept of that. I was like, I follow. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. That wasn't for you.
It wasn't something that I was like, oh yeah, definitely. That's all me. Like it was never something
that you connected with.
Exactly.
Right.
And first he put me in this squad leader position. So like, the entire time that we were in basic training, I was a squad leader, quote unquote. And being put in that position and being given that kind of responsibility opened my eyes to what it means to be a part of the team and like what it means to lead and to really actually put forth effort, not only for yourself, but for other people.
Yes.
And that definitely was a tipping point for me. And then, once I realized that, it was like a waterfall of just like, yes, platoon honor graduate. Like I was very proud of myself for stuff like that.
You should be.
And, because it was something that like, I was never like the winner. You know what I mean? Like I was never like, oh, she came in first. Like, she's the best out of everybody. That was never me. And once that, like the army, like I found my niche and then like, that was, that like recognition just like drove me. And it was like every single thing after that I like took the opportunity and I gave it all my effort. I got exactly what I deserved, which was, the benefits of being a hard worker.
Yeah,
so.
Right. And I think for me, what I want people to take away most from this right here is that it's easy when you hear people who were hard workers their whole life. Either there's just something chemically about them or they were instilled with that from their parents or whatever. But when you have someone who maybe wasn't always a hard worker or struggled deeply with this, the reward is incredible. And to see yourself as the person you've always wanted to be is like, oh, I'll never go back to being that type of person. Right? Is that
Absolutely.
how you feel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect. There's plenty of things that I need to work on and like, pursue and stuff like that as far as like becoming the best version of myself. But I do think that, no effort is going to get you nowhere. So, you just got to keep, doing that.
Right.
And I'm not going to stop, eventually. And that's the thing. Never going to be perfect. Never.
No one is.
But, at least I can say that I'm like pushing for it.
Yeah. And despite obstacles from being a woman in, like I said, a male saturated field, being Hispanic, whatever it is, there's always going to be some type of obstacle. But to consistently choose to fight it anyways and to go where you want to go no matter what happens is a power and a skill. And I think that's one of your best qualities. Would you yourself say that's one of your best qualities?
I think my eyebrows are my best quality. But
Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
But yeah, no, I do think I'm very proud of myself for my commitment to the bare minimum effort. Like, like not saying the bare minimum effort, but like the very least, my commitment to effort is something that I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
For sure.
Beautiful.
And I wouldn't have it any other way at this point in my life.
Love it. So. That is to me that's literally what I want this podcast to be about, because I think even though in the past X amount of years we've made incredible scientific, technological, whatever advancements, I think a lot of the times people really still struggle with the same things we were struggling with thousands of years ago, which is like this self thing. It's like, if I struggle with anxiety, if I struggle with depression, whatever it is, whatever my internal battle is, I need to get over this and become a better person. Not that you're less of yourself if you deal with these things, but when you have something you want to be and then you consistently are not that, it hurts you. It weighs on you.
Yeah.
And I think having a woman who is, to me, a warrior, Wonder Woman, as other people call you, you know. Sometimes. Yeah.
Mostly my mom.
There you go. That's one person. That's all you need.
Exactly.
You need to reinforce. You do. You need to reinforce these narratives within yourself.
Absolutely.
Like for real. Like all jokes aside, I have a tattoo of a samurai on my arm. It's not like people go around, yo, man, you're a warrior. I believe this of myself.
Right,
I have to because this is the person I want to be.
Right.
So I'm gonna be that no matter what because this is what I want to be. Okay, let's shift gears here. You're awesome, right? We got that out there.
Yeah, so
your accomplishment is great. What my opinion of the Army and the police force and stuff like that is not always shining and glowing.
Right.
And I think a lot of the times I personally, from the outside looking in, see a major lack of competence in some areas.
Right.
And especially in the Army with how women get treated and how certain sexual misconduct gets swept under the rug. And that's alarming to me because I feel like the Army, policemen, people who impact lives in such a way should be held to a higher standard than people just doing a random job.
Absolutely.
Have you ever experienced any, maybe not you or even a story of someone else, have you ever experienced gross misconduct within that field, within that area?
I've definitely experienced a lot of like expectations of like gender a little bit. Definitely situations in which things were handled a certain way or said because I was a female. As far as like sexual harassment and assault and stuff like that goes, I've never personally experienced it in any way, but within the Army. And I do think, but that being said, like, the Army has tried very, very hard in like on the ground floor trying to stop it because it has been an issue for decades, literally. And, there are certain things that are happening that are, they don't seem good, but they are. Like the reports of sexual assaults are actually going up. Now, when you hear that, you're like, oh, that's bad. Like, that means more people are getting assaulted. In reality, what that means is just more people feel comfortable enough to report it.
Right.
But at the same time, and like, I'm very, very happy that, the people who do experience those situations feel comfortable enough
to go out and speak.
To say something about it. And like, for people to basically like justice. As a Wonder Woman fan, I'm a big fan of justice. So,
yes.
So people, getting that for themselves, getting their justice and in those senses. And, even the programs to like teach people, this is what it is. Like, you may not think that you're harassing somebody, but you are, and like that education is very, very important because a lot of people don't realize it. And the people that even they do know it, they do it anyways because they don't think they're going to get caught.
Yeah.
And they don't think it's that big of a deal.
And some of it might even be like taught and subconscious. Like, you were telling me earlier that you had a guy come up to you and be like, oh, you're one of the good ones. Yeah. Like, even though that's not a huge deal, obviously. Right. It's still it's damaging. It's not the right thing to say. And I think when you have people in positions of power who carry the same belief set, we want to get rid of that. Right. Absolutely. And I think you're right. When people are able or feel more comfortable to speak out about it is the sign of progress, but there's still work to be done. Absolutely. And I think that, as much as I am very happy that the Army has pursued this path of, ensuring that everybody feels comfortable within, like not having to worry about stuff like that. That's their goal from what I can tell at least. And like, they do try. But like you said, like holding people to a higher standard, you can't like not everybody that joins the Army is going to be a good person. Absolutely. So, it's a matter of getting those people out. And then on top of that, like the thing that I am very, very passionate about, I want people who did something wrong to, be reprimanded for it. Something like actually wrong. Yeah. There are unfortunately situations in which, the person didn't do anything wrong and they're being wrongfully either accused or whatever the case may be of something that they did not at all do. So,
people taking advantage of the system
of
to
the
get
narrative.
themselves into a position that's
power.
more comfortable for them. It's like, as a woman, I can't sit there and be like, I can't even fathom doing something like that.
That's evil.
So like, yeah,
that is evil.
it's like, you deserve the same punishment that person would have gotten.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like it's like, it goes back to this thing of like, not everybody that joins the army is a good person. Like people will do some slimy stuff to get themselves out. Exactly.
Yeah.
To get themselves out of a situation regardless, either way. And it's a matter of like, that honor and integrity and like maintaining that and finding people that will actually uphold that mentality within the military.
Absolutely.
And nobody's perfect. Do I lie sometimes? Absolutely. Like, is that gonna like crumble my integrity? Am I a horrible person because I like tell a couple of white lies? Like, no, I'm not gonna burn in hell for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like people that do some like seriously messed up stuff, it's like, I don't want you on my team.
Right, and that's like that's the part that within the army, within the police force, within any group of people who command so much respect and power, we need to weed those people out.
Absolutely.
Let's get them out of here because like you said, little stuff like that. People are people. Humans are all flawed. Mm-hmm. None of us are perfect. But there's a difference between telling a white lie or making a seemingly innocent joke like that guy did versus harassing a woman.
Exactly.
Making up rumors about who she's with.
Right.
Things like that. To me, that's intolerable. That is inexcusable. Can't happen. There needs to be a little to no tolerance policy on misconduct like that. And I think, obviously, from the outside looking in, the media controls a lot of narratives. Mm-hmm. But we know it's happened.
Right.
We know there have been instances like that. And it's just, I want the best for the people who go into the army. That is a sacrifice. Even if some people don't view it as that, even if people don't go into it.
It is absolutely a sacrifice. Even if you don't want to be there.
Right.
Like, there are people that are like, oh, like, this country's whatever, but I joined up in the military. It's like, it's not, you didn't sacrifice in a way that like somebody else might have. But you did sacrifice your time with your family. You sacrifice, having control over your life to a certain extent. And
there's a lot of it that, you're giving up. Even if you're not doing it for the most patriotic, honorable reason, you still sacrifice.
Right.
And you are the people that, in case of catastrophe, will protect this country. And I love this country, even though there's a lot wrong with it. That people get it confused. Like, just because I am capable of speaking out against issues within our system doesn't mean I'm not.
That's the most patriotic thing.
That is the most. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's the absolute.
That is what it is.
Recognizing what is wrong with, like, it's the same thing as like if you use yourself as an example. Recognizing what you're doing wrong is the most loving thing that you can do.
Yes.
Recognizing what is wrong with your country is the most patriotic thing that you can do, because the only thing that can make it better is recognizing what's wrong
and working towards those changes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times when I speak to people who are on the lean towards the extremely patriotic side, that's not a response I hear.
Right. And I'm a very patriotic person.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else at this point in my life.
Me either.
Based on my experiences thus far. Right. Like, I like it here. Yeah. It's good, Mm-hmm. So, coming from that perspective of like, I am a patriotic person. I think that having the respect for your country, to notice what needs to be changed is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah. And like you said, when you're able to examine whatever we have going on and call things out, you're fighting for a change and a positive. Nobody's ever fighting for a worse change. You don't want to make anything worse. Right. You're fighting for something better. And I think a lot of people shut that down because they feel like anything negative about people, the police, the army, is like a direct attack on America, and it's not.
And nobody wants to be told what they're doing wrong, And I think that's the thing. Is like, if I was to sit here and be like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, and I'm just telling you.
Most people can't handle it.
They can't. No, they can't.
No one
it's
wants
the
to hear
same
that
thing.
shit.
It's like, patriotic people generally speaking are very supportive of, civil servants in general,
mm-hmm.
military,
yes,
EMS,
yes,
police, whatever. Yep. And I think that, people that want to see change in those fields, they say the changes that they want to see, and sometimes they're a little extreme in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's a huge amount of change that does need to be made, absolutely. But the people in those positions, like, police officers in general, are like, this is my job, this is my life. Like, why are you trying to take my job from me?
And I get that.
And it gets to that extreme level of like this one versus that one, and there's no in between. And it's like, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm literally in between. Like, I'm a federally recognized law enforcement officer. I'm in the military.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I'm sitting here and like, there's some serious changes that need to be made, like huge. I think that having more people that can sit in the middle and see both sides and genuinely be there and be like, yeah, this is what's wrong. Like, let's work together and talk about it. But there's so much divisiveness and opposition from like two completely different groups that it's like there's never gonna. It seems like there's never gonna be like a let's work together kind of thing. It's just like divide and conquer almost.
Which is scary. It's scary when we're talking about a country that hasn't been here a super long time.
I know, we're super young.
That's the part that scares me. It's like, I'm all for whatever changes or no changes you want to be made. All right, you can have an opinion and it's okay with me. Like, for real. Like, I really don't care. I care.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah, you could, as long as it's not absolutely horrific towards people. And some of them are. Some of them is like, come on, man. But we need to be able to have these conversations without getting emotionally hurt and once you're on this side, you'll always be on this side. And that's part of the narrative that's like, oh, that's not going to work. It's not going to work if we're too totally split, because then we lose our power and our unity.
Right.
I think also that might be the plan. I think when you can keep people separated, divided, fighting amongst themselves versus the people who actually control the power, that's kind of what, if I was a leader and I wanted to keep a country,
divide
down,
them.
Hey man, fight about this. I'm
House
the one
divided cannot stand.
Right.
Like,
so yeah, I think that's part of the issue. To bring it all in together, if you had to tell the viewers one overall theme and point of your journey that you would want them to take, what would it be?
As much as you think that there's something there to stop you, as long as you're willing to push through it, it's really not there to stop you. It's being in the military and having certain like gender roles expected of you or certain stereotypes expected of you. Whatever the case may be, in my experience, has just been like, just go right through it. Like, you can go over it if you want. Nah, I'm gonna go right through it. Like, just prove everybody wrong. Prove yourself wrong. If you doubt yourself, I think the first thing you should do when you start doubting yourself is to prove yourself wrong. Mm-hmm. So there's no amount of work that is not worth. Is that how?
Yep.
Success. There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, there really isn't anything stopping you, and it's easy to sit here and say stuff like that, being in the situation that we are now,
of course.
With like the level of equality that we do have for people in general in this country. Me specifically as a woman, I haven't experienced anything that
too bad,
difficult. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I look back at females in the military before, and it's just like they were they're
the ones that went through it.
They
right?
did that,
right.
And I'm sitting here reaping the benefits. Yep. And like sometimes the benefits don't seem that great,
but if you didn't have them, you
exactly.
would understand why they are.
Exactly.
Right.
And I definitely do feel like at this point, whatever obstacles that I've been through, there's nothing that you can't accomplish if you put forth enough effort. And I think that's some mentality that like a lot of people should maintain. And the only thing that's going to come from it is, success and happiness. And if not, if you do fail, you can at least say that you tried, and then you know what the next step is going to be.
Absolutely. So. I totally agree. Like I said, I always say this, that is what I want this podcast to be about, that no matter what obstacles you may face, if you make a decision to, oh, fuck it, I'm going to go through with this anyways, mm-hmm. You have the power, and you take away power from outside external forces, and that is a beautiful way to go about life.